This is such a fascinating tale that you're a part of. Accused, were you approached to create a story for this series, or did it come across your desk and you're like, okay, I need to be a part of it. So you wanted to reach out and see if Fox would let you write an episode?
Yeah, so the way that this came to be was that I met Howard Gordon so I used to be the co-chair of the WGA's Native and Indigenous Writers Committee, and we had participated in sort of like almost like a speed dating version of meeting showrunners. So each native writer was like, here's the four that I would love to meet. And then you were given an hour and you had 15 minutes with each showrunner. And so Howard was on my list. And so I got to meet him. We chatted for 15 minutes. And I was actually in my trailer shooting Res Dogs at the time. And then a year later, which was a year ago now, he came back and told me that he had this show, Accused, and that they had an episode that they were interested in sharing with me. And so at that time, they had sort of an idea of what they wanted the episode to be about. And so once I heard about it, I thought that, yes, I would love to be a part of this. You know, I come from my mother's an environmental journalist. My dad is a former tribal chairman. I spent a lot of my spring breaks as a kid at nuclear waste protest sites in Nevada. So like when they came to me, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. And then I want to add some stuff in. And so it's been a joy to work with them because they really did let me add a lot of the personal stories from the tribes that I come from, as well as my family. And so it's been really wonderful.
Well, Natani has quite a battle ahead of him, but the character is so beautifully fleshed out and so much power and angst and all of that you want in a seriously dramatic but clearly needed story that needs to have a light on it. And the actor who portrays him is just so powerful in the role. How on hand were you, or how hands on, I should say, were you when it came to selecting the cast for the series?
I was very on hands because when we got the story to the point that we were going to do uranium on the Navajo Nation, I upfront said that we need to cast Navajo actors. Now we shoot in Toronto, which is not the Southwest, and so I wanted to very upfront say, I would love to cast as many Navajo actors as we can in the Navajo roles, and so I worked with casting very closely and they were so great. I cannot say enough about this team because they really do try and make any dream you have work, and casting was one of them for me, because I think what we've been told a lot as Native creators is that there's no Native actors or we can't find one, and I'm just like, it's not true. But the method in which we find them might look different. And so I worked closely with casting and I said, we might have to Facebook message some people. We might have to Instagram message some people. We might have to go out to the local community when it came to like casting background for the protest scene. And so I had a list of Navajo actors and performers that I had either known over the years, followed. We all kind of were in each other's circumference a little bit, or sphere. And so, yeah, Robert was somebody that I had seen his work before. Natalie was a dancer I had met years before. Kyle, I'd worked with on Reservation Dog. Forrest Goodluck, he was an actor that I admired since he started acting in The Revenant. And so when the thing came up, like, can we find these Navajo actors, we were able to cast 4 out of the 5 leads of it, including Deanna Ellison. And then Kiowa, he's like our Arizona tribal cousin from a different nearby tribe. So I was like, I'll take it. So yes, I felt really strongly about casting that way. And especially when it came to language, Natalie is a Navajo speaker, Deanna as well. And so I really want to make sure that if we were including language in it, that in conjunction with our language consultant, that we were finding speakers who could pronounce the words, because it's a difficult language.
I was just going to ask, how important was it for you that they speak native, the native language, and also how important was it for you to include that language in your episode?
Yeah, so my thing with the language was that it's a difficult language. I myself am not fluent in it. My mother is, my grandmother is, and so I knew that if I were going to feature language, which I wanted to, I think it's important. It's the Navajo Nation is the second largest tribe in the country. Sometimes we're first. My mom will probably argue that we're number one, but I think technically the Cherokee have us beat this year. And so I wanted to make sure that if we included it, that we had speakers who were comfortable with it. You know, not only can you say some words, but can you be comfortable? Can you express emotion in it? And we had a lot of really great people who were able to do that, which was so exciting. You know, and then we also had a language consultant involved as well for maybe some more difficult phrases or difficult words, or maybe phrases we just don't use very frequently. And so I told them, you know, for the casting, I was like, there were certain roles that I said, I just don't want to see them unless they are speaking, and I need to be the one hearing it. And so, yeah, that's how we went about casting.
Well, I think every scene is super powerful, but maybe the one that I felt super impacted by as well was the protests and things like that. Talk about shooting that kind of a scene. That's a very large and lengthy scene to get
Yeah.
your shot on so many actors at once and get the importance of the scene down. Talk about filming that particular scene for this episode, please.
Yeah. So that scene, you know, I think that started in casting as well. And we needed to find Indigenous background, and we're in the Toronto area, you know, and the first time I was sent a list of the background, it wasn't very long. And I said, we need more, we need a lot more. And again, this is where casting comes in and really worked with me. And I said, again, we're going to have to go different methods. So I was like, we need some flyers. We need to post. Can you make me one for my Instagram, for my Facebook? Can we print some? And they did. And I was able to post them up on my Instagram, my social media, because natives, we love social media. So we'll find out things through social media. But then also, you know, they took it upon themselves to find a local powwow that was happening, to take them to Indian centers in the Toronto area, because you know that Toronto has such a large Indigenous population and they're surrounded by so many reserves. And so it was important to me to make sure that we had an opportunity to bring in First Nations background, because we're on their territory. And so that scene is made possible by all of our First Nations backgrounds folks responding to that, coming out. It was hot. It was like during the heat wave there. It was not pleasant. But you know, when they showed up, I went onto the bus that, you know, everyone was on, and I introduced myself, but I also brought the medic with us. And I let them know that this medic has sage, sweetgrass, tobacco options for them, because I knew that we were filming a scene that a lot of our folks have actually been through. And so in filming that scene, because it's so intense with the police and it is so hot and it is so, you know, you're reenacting violence that a lot of them have lived through. And so I wanted to make sure that if any point anyone felt overwhelmed, felt triggered, needed something, that they knew our medic had the medicines that they needed to take care of themselves, and also to let us know, like, if you're tapped out, you're tapped out. So I think that really set us off in a good tone, because I really wanted that to be the way we shot that whole episode, because it's not made up, you know what I mean, in terms of what our characters are experiencing, and some of them have experienced them in real life. And so, you know, the casting, taking care of people's spirits, I think was super important. And then of course, you know, my hands are always up to Jeremy at our DP, who him and his camera team are amazing and are willing to just go through the trenches with me for that. But yeah, we had it was hot, it was good, but there was still a lot of laughter on set, despite it being something so tragic to portray.
Were there any scenes that you were really impressed or surprised or stood out to you that you were a little bit nervous about when you were creating them, but they came out so epic, or something so memorable or significant to you when you saw them on screen? You were like, okay, I did it. I did it. I did the damn
Yes,
thing.
yes.
Okay.
The scene that I felt most yeah, when you're watching it and you're like, wow, this is magic. There's a scene that takes place between Natalie Benali, who plays Shondine, and Kyra Gordon, who plays Derek. And they are such incredible actors and performers, and went there and they were very open to it. And it's this heart-wrenching, beautiful scene between them that I was crying at the monitor.
Well, this episode of Accused is super poignant and very topical. We have great shows out, of course, like Res Dogs and Dark Winds. How important is it for us to continue to shine light on Indigenous individuals and the stories they've been through?
I mean, it's incredibly important. You know, we are the first storytellers of this country, and I think, for so long have sort of been flattened in how Native characters can exist in storytelling when our stories were being told by non-natives. And so now we are in this really incredible era of having Native-led television shows, and whether that's through show running, writing, directing, acting. And I think it's incredibly important because I think that it is restoring the narrative humanity in Indigenous people for audiences. We are not a caricature. We're not a mascot. We're not a cartoon. We're not a one-dimensional man with a tear on his face. Like, we are funny. We have a lot of dimension to us. We have a lot of, we're smart, and we have love lives, and we have complicated things that happen. And I think it's so important because I think when we think about how even things like law and policy is impacted in this country, people care about people. And when you're not viewed as a human being, it's very hard to advocate for a group of people. And I think, you know, for us, I'm so excited that we are in this moment of feeling very full and rich in our characters.
What do you hope then viewers take away or lingers with them from watching this episode of Accused?
I think there's like, you know, I think about this a lot. You know, anytime you put anything into the world, you're like, oh, what am I putting out there? You know, I think there's two things for me for this episode. I hope that viewers take away curiosity, that they're curious about environmental injustice that's happened in the country. I hope that they all go Google uranium mining, and as well as any other environmental injustice issues happening around them in their local territories and tribal lands nearby. Like, there's so many things going on. I hope the audiences leave curious about this. And then the second thing is I hope people can walk away with having some compassion for the humanity that exists at the center of these issues, that it affects all of us. And at the center of it are human beings who have these really full lives, and they still continue to show up and they continue to fight for this place that we all call home. You know, so it's like two things. I hope they get curious about the environment and how to save it. And two, that they have some respect and compassion for the people who are at the center of fighting for it.